Hey Cody, this is a response to your video about your English teacher being harassed for being an erotic author. I've had several teachers in my life who have influenced me in many different ways, and if I were to go back and find out that one of them was like, oh, your English teacher, was a erotic novelist, or starred in a porn or something like that, I honestly have to say I wouldn't think any less of them. I would think that they still influenced my life because they never taught me about my sexual fantasies or never taught me about any of those things, anything taboo or anything like that. They taught me about things in life. They taught me about things in language arts or history or social studies or science or anything along those lines. Um, the closest I've ever had anything like that happen was I had the principal of my elementary school was fired for sexually harassing a secretary. I still think that he was a good principal during my time there at the school. Didn't really personally know him myself, but I still thought he was a good principal. May not think he's a nice person, but he still was a good principal. I don't understand why this whole situation is such a big deal in the first place. I think that teachers should have a life outside of school. They should be allowed to have a hobby, or do whatever they want outside of school so long as it's not illegal, which is the same for anybody else. Um, and as long as it doesn't interfere with their teaching ability. People have said that her having a pen name is cause for suspicion. Why wouldn't she come forward and tell everybody that she writes erotic novels? Those who have nothing to hide, hide nothing. Um, the bigger question I have is this: why should she have to? We're protected by our First Amendment rights to the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and pretty much the freedom of thought. And we shouldn't be persecuted or prosecuted for a thought crime. So even if this was an erotic fantasy of hers or what have you, she can't get in trouble for it, and she shouldn't be in trouble for it. And it's not right that anybody should tell her that she has to choose between writing, which is, seems to definitely be her passion, and teaching, which has been her career. Um, I'm pretty positive that if she could write for a living, she would. Like anybody who enjoys writing, they'd love to get paid for it. I mean, I like writing, and I wouldn't mind being a sellout. Because then it's like, well, yeah, I'm a sellout, but I'm sitting at home doing something I enjoy while you go to work doing something you don't enjoy. Works for me. But I'm pretty sure that if she could have, she would be doing that. And as she still is teaching, it seems to just be a hobby at this point. But if she were to have to choose between one or the other, I could see one of two scenarios in that sense. One or two scenarios would happen. One, she gives up writing. And this would be really bad for two different reasons. First, she'd be giving up something that she enjoys just to appease a few, prudish parents who feel it necessary to interfere with other people's lives. Second, it potentially would be an admission of guilt on her part. It could be interpreted by the parents that she's saying, well, what I did was bad, and I feel really terrible about it, and it was really inappropriate of me to be writing about such racy things. Um, this opens up the door for those parents to say, yeah, that's right, you did something wrong, and you know what, you were touching my kids wrong too. And you were fantasizing about them being mounted by unicorns and stuff. A scandal like that opening up, most definitely it could happen in this day and age especially. And if she were to give up teaching, she'd lose her career that she spent time, money, training on. And according to you, Cody, she was really good at it. She really influenced people's lives in the process. So we would lose an excellent teacher, which in this day and age would be a serious shame. And then it gets back to the whole, would she be able to supplement her income just by writing alone? No, she probably wouldn't be able to unless she was a Stephen King or Michael Crichton or Anne Rice of erotic novels. In conclusion, I completely agree with you 100%. This is a bogus thing, this is a bogus situation, and I have a feeling that most likely what's going to happen is that it's just going to fade back into iniquity where it was before. Back on some shelf, back in the back room of her classroom, and nobody's ever going to speak of it again, and nobody's going to care. Cheers.